I'm Mel with the JFK Living team, and I'm super excited to have my guest, Amanda, here with us today because we are going to talk about something very close to your heart and close to my heart, and that's women investing in real estate. Thank you for coming on today, Amanda.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really excited to hear about your journey and how we can help inspire other women to start navigating that journey. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
So my first investment property was actually on 36 in Spring Garden.
Oh, wow. In Philly?
In Philly, yeah.
Okay.
So I bought the building that I lived in college.
Really?
So it was a triplex.
Okay.
And I had a horrible landlord. So I got a really good deal on the building, so I bought it. And then I started buying really, really cheap stuff in Philly, like really cheap. Okay. And the area's kind of turned around. I grew up a little bit, moved to South Jersey. This is probably now let's say 2014-ish.
Okay. So after all of the downturn in the real estate market,
yeah, so
you're on the upside of that.
Yeah, so I negotiated short sales for a while.
Okay.
Foreclosure prevention options I did. So deed in lieu of foreclosure, all that. I started getting wind of deals that would fall apart.
Okay.
I got to know a lot of investors from Philly. I did the deeds for the Philly Sheriff's Office. I typed them. So I got to know them. I got to know, a lot of the buyers that would buy my short sales.
Okay.
And I started buying single family homes and I guess what they would call the BRRRR method.
Okay. Can you explain that for people who may not be familiar? Because
Yes.
we use a lot of terms in real estate that most people don't understand, right?
So honestly, at the time, I didn't even know that was a thing. But it is, I think it's buy, renovate, rent, refinance.
Yes.
Right? Okay. Yes. So I would buy at 50 to 70,000 and try to be all in under 100.
Okay. So you would buy it for 50 to 70. You would renovate it.
Yeah.
Be in a property for $100,000.
Yeah.
And then you would rent it out.
Yes.
And then refinance it.
Yes. So at the time, I guess rents would be anywhere from 15 to 1,800.
Oh, so you had good cash flow then on that
property. So a
property.
general rule of thumb I try to work with is that 1% rule.
Can you explain the 1% rule for everyone?
So when you're buying a property, a quick eyeball, obviously there's other factors
Of course.
taxes and insurance, but you try to be all in a 1% of, so let's say it's 300,000, then your rent should be 3,000.
Correct.
Yes.
So that just gives you a quick snapshot of whether or not a property might be worth further investigation.
Even looking at. Yeah.
Right.
I just kind of use it. I eyeball. I go through. I still look at the MLS to find deals. So I'll go through really quickly and just kind of, no. And so at the time, you could get things. It was a lot of the REOs.
Okay.
I guess I should explain what an REO is.
What an REO is? Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, all of that real estate jargon that no one understands, right?
So an REO is a property that was already foreclosed on and is now owned by the bank.
Correct.
So I would buy a lot of those. And
so tell me, Amanda, was your family investing in real estate? Is that where you learned it from?
No, I kind of just learned as I went. And I asked 5,000 questions. So anybody that knows me and has worked with me, I totally pick everyone's brain. What do you do? How do you make decisions? What do you use for financing?
So your first deal was a triplex.
Yes.
So
with seller financing.
Okay. So explain what seller financing is.
Okay. So seller financing is when the owner of the home holds the note. So I am a borrower.
And you're paying him instead of paying the mortgage lender.
Yeah.
Okay. So what made you choose a triplex as your first property? Most people would say that's a little overwhelming to all of a sudden have 3 rental units that you're responsible for.
Well, so it was on Drexel's campus. So I kind of knew, I knew everybody in the building. Obviously, I was one of them. But I knew, I guess, the basic clientele, the tenants. And I thought it would be easy for me to find tenants. And the rent was really cheap.
So it made sense from a financial perspective.
Yeah.
So what motivated you? You said you hated your landlord. That was one of the reasons why you're like, I'm going to get rid of him,
Yeah.
buy it, and be my own kind of
Yeah.
boss in this building. But what long-term benefits were you thinking of at the time, or were you even thinking about that?
I don't think I thought about that.
No.
No. No.
So then you used that to springboard into buying other properties.
Yeah. South Jersey.
South Jersey. What made you switch your focus from Philly to South Jersey?
So I moved. So I was in Rittenhouse, and I'm like, if I'm going to manage stuff, I'd rather be around
Physically, physically in the area.
Exactly.
So I think one of the biggest things people ask when we're talking about real estate investing is, where do you get the money to do it?
So at the time, I had some money from selling my Philly ones. I didn't do a 1031.
Okay. Can you explain what a
Yeah.
1031 exchange
Yeah.
is for everyone? Because again, that's one of the things that we talk about.
Yeah. So a 1031 is when you sell a property, and it's not to avoid taxes, right? It's to
No,
postpone
it's to
them.
postpone them, because if you don't use the money from your 1031 exchange, so when you do a 1031 exchange, you can either pay taxes on the capital gains of what the property is improved for, or you can use that money and put it into another property of greater value with a greater loan amount, and that defers your taxes.
Yeah. And I think you have like 6 months to do that or something.
Correct.
Yeah,
There's a limited time
I have
period.
so much depreciation that I don't even do 1031s. But so I don't know. I don't. I mean, at some point, I guess I will, but I haven't had to.
You
yet.
haven't had
I
to
also
do
try
that.
not to sell anything.
So explain that, because I think people, sometimes don't always see real estate as a long-term investment. Many people, look at like cryptocurrency or like the stock exchange where they can make
Mhm.
a quick buck. What is it about real estate investing? Why is it such a long-term investment?
Um,
Why wouldn't you want to sell your properties?
so I refinance, and every time I refinance, I cash out.
Okay.
So I pull money out and use it to buy more real estate.
Okay.
I don't really spend money on anything else besides real estate. I don't buy anything else. So, it's kind of the gift that keeps giving, I feel like. So you
Okay.
pull the money out every couple of years, refinance. I think like the average refinance term for a landlord is like 3 years, like
Okay.
2-3 years.
So basically, if you're looking to get into real estate investing, you're looking to move assets around quite regularly.
Yeah. I mean, I hold everything, but I roll a lot of the money over. And I also, when I buy a property, I completely renovate it. So everything is brand new. So the roof, the hot water heater, sometimes I'll save the floors if they're decent, but for the most part, all appliances, everything is brand new. So I do that for a couple reasons. One is everything I do is to create value, right? Like you don't buy anything and go in and keep it the same way, or this is not my model.
Okay.
So you go in, you give people this amazing, great place to live, with granite countertops and, shaker cabinets and everything that somebody would want to purchase.
Right.
And you have a huge pool of renters when you do that.
Right.
I try to put a washer dryer in every place I have, even if they're small units. I try to do a dishwasher in everyone, depending on the size of the unit. But it's all about just creating value. And the good part about that is, one, you can refinance, and
Right.
two is the service calls. You get no service calls. Nothing breaks. So, because everything's new.
Because everything's new.
Yeah.
And people are willing to pay a premium to
They
live in a
will.
property like that.
Yeah.
And so do you have a high vacancy rate in your
No, I never
properties?
have any vacancies.
How many properties do you have right now?
So I don't know. So I have a couple hundred units, I guess I would say at this point.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm closing on 40 units at the end of the month, hopefully.
Knock on wood.
Yeah.
And you just closed on a property yesterday.
Yes. Yeah. So I started doing more on like the luxury fix and flip end.
Okay.
So, but I am just doing interior renos on them.
Okay.
So no additions. I'm not building from the ground up. Basically taking properties that are in the million range
Okay.
and just updating them inside. And the reason I started doing that was that I feel like the people buying in the $100,000 to $300,000 range are very rate sensitive.
Right.
Whereas the people who are $1 million plus, they can refinance, they can put more money down, they can buy their rate
It
down.
doesn't
It's
affect
different.
them as much.
It doesn't.
It doesn't
No.
affect the affordability as much in that price range.
Yeah, even though the payment is huge difference. But to them, they'll just put more money down, or they'll, they'll buy their rate down. They don't care. So it's different.
So how did you self-educate yourself? Because listening to you talk that you have a couple hundred doors.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I knew you had a lot. I didn't know you had that many.
Yeah.
I mean, and it sounds like you're kind of surprised yourself. So how did you educate yourself to be in a position where you're at, where, you didn't come from a family who showed you how to do this? So what did you do to set yourself up for this kind of success? It's incredible.
Oh, thanks.
I'm impressed. I'm in awe.
Thanks. I think recently I stopped putting limits on myself. Like I said, like going into anything and telling yourself, oh, I can't do that. I can't afford it. I can't buy that. I can't do that. Then you're never going to be able to do it. And I feel like something changed in me recently that I was just like, I can do that if they can do it. Like why put a limit on myself of what? Like why give myself a goal of, oh, I need to buy this amount? Like it should be buy it if it makes sense.
Yeah.
And there are times when it's stressful. Don't get me
Sure.
wrong.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I can
think
only
I told you
imagine.
what happened yesterday.
Uh-huh.
But it all works out. And I think I just kind of changed my mindset of that, if the deal works, the money will come. And yeah, so far.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, like, because there's going to be people listening to us who are like, oh, well, it sounds too good to be true, or it sounds too difficult. I wouldn't even know where to start. What would your one piece of advice be for someone who wants to buy their first investment property, or maybe they buy a duplex, they live in one half, they rent out the other? Like, what would be your first piece of advice for somebody wanting to start out?
I think it's important, your mindset. I think if you think that you can, if that's your goal, like if you personally want to buy a whole bunch of rentals, like buy a whole bunch of rentals. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's ways to do it where you don't need a ton of money. Like I use all hard money to buy everything, which hard money.
Can you explain what hard money is?
Yes.
Again, real estate jargon.
Hard money is like private equity. So basically there's funds that lend high leverage.
Okay.
So anywhere from like 90 to 100%.
Okay.
And it's a higher interest rate, but it's for a short period of time.
Right.
So if your deal works, let's say I think right now it's 65% ARV, which is your
after
repair
renovation
value. Has to be your all in.
Right.
So like, let's say you buy something, let's say it's $200,000 you buy it for, it would need to appraise for 420.
420.
Yeah, something like that. So if you have a deal like that, then you'll be able to get financing.
So you're talking about not a traditional mortgage lender. These are, private equity firms that have lots of capital, lots of money.
Yeah.
They lend you the money at a higher interest rate, right? Like than a traditional mortgage. And you're using that for a short period of time to get the renovations done. You're going to rent it out, and then you're going to refinance.
Yeah.
Is what you're going to do.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So I've had better luck doing it that way than I have with banks.
Okay.
I will refinance with a bank, but as a woman, I do feel like it's harder to get bank financing than it is to get.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
What has your experience been? That's intriguing.
So I actually recently bought a house, was with a traditional, this is now, we're talking residential mortgage. My credit was better. I made more money. Credit was better. And I had less debt. And they removed me from the mortgage. They told me they didn't want me on the loan.
Why?
They were just like, well, your rentals, it's a little complicated with your income. And after that, just totally left like a bad taste in my
Turned
mouth.
you off a little bit.
Yeah, it did.
So let's talk about that a little bit because you and I had talked about this a little bit previously before this conversation. What do you think the barriers are for women? Because every time we see something like on TV, it's always like some big, male investor type.
Yeah.
He's got all these properties. What do you think are the barriers for women to get into real estate investment?
Definitely financing is one. Number two is knowing construction.
Okay.
So I know construction really well. My dad's a contractor.
Okay.
I know how to hang sheetrock. I have no problem going in and like
Putting
getting
some sweat equity into
completely
something.
being covered in dirt
Okay.
and dust, and that doesn't bother me at all. If I also treat all of my subcontractors, all my contractors, like they're my friends. I don't talk down to anybody.
Right.
If you want people to come to work every day and work their hardest, like they need to see you
And do
doing
good
the
quality
same
work, right?
Yeah, and you need to pay people when they give you the invoice, and all that stuff is so important.
Okay.
And it really comes down to like being a good person, and then also knowing your numbers, knowing what things cost.
Right.
Recently, I got a quote for windows. Like I didn't tell the guy what I did, but like I just sent him there to get it. It was $150,000. He tried to get me for Anderson replacement windows. I was like, what?
$150,000. How many windows were there?
I mean, there was like a decent amount of windows, but not
but
like,
not
I
that
paid
many.
$400 a window. So like for me, I was like, you're nuts. Like nobody's paying if people pay this. But
Do you feel like he was trying to take advantage of you?
Yeah, 100%. And I get it, like you're commission based, whatever. But it just,
But that was so short-sighted of him because if he actually got to know you and knew what you
Yeah.
did, the long-term benefit of having a good relationship with you would have paid off way
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, it definitely it like, and I'll get that like here and there.
So construction knowledge is one
So
that
important.
okay. I cannot agree more with that. My
Yeah.
husband's a contractor, and I feel like having that knowledge and myself just empowers me to do bigger things.
Exactly. Like knowing how much materials cost and labor is just, I mean, you'll know if a quote is good, you'll know how long it'll take. There's also value in somebody that'll guarantee a timeline.
Right.
So
Because with hard
time
money,
is money. Yeah.
with hard money, you're up against, you want to get it done as
Yeah.
quickly as possible.
Yeah. And there's no prepayment penalties usually on most hard money.
Right.
So that's also important because every month you're interest only.
Right.
So you're paying, anywhere from, depending how big of a deal, like $2,000 to $10,000 a month. Yeah.
What is the interest right now on a hard money?
I think I did no points on the one I did yesterday. I was like 10%.
10%.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that one I did 85% loan to cost.
Okay.
So which is the purchase price plus your construction.
Okay.
85% of that. So then you bring 15 down.
15 down.
Yeah. I've also done 100, which is 100% of purchase, 100% of construction.
Okay.
You just pay your closing costs.
Gotcha.
But I couldn't find a program that was for over 500,000 or more.
Okay.
So like I just bought one in Mullica Hill that was like 425. So that one I did 100.
How do you find these hard money lenders?
So I was a debt and equity broker for a little bit.
Okay.
So I got to know a lot of them that way. They tell me I'm not loyal because I price them out at different, because I know so many. But like, whoever's going to give me the best deal, I'm going
Sure,
with them. If
of
you want to
course.
continuously give me the best deal, I'll continuously use you. But like otherwise I do, I use multiple
Okay.
hard money lenders.
So if I wanted to go out and get a hard money, would you help me?
Yeah.
Would you?
Yeah.
Would
Totally.
you help me?
Yeah.
Have you
I'll
thought,
help anybody.
have you
So
thought-
many people help me.
have you thought about a mentoring program for
So
women?
it's one of the things I really want to do. So I have this whole big, like in my mind, what it's going to look like. And I want to start with like a girl, maybe like early 20s. Yeah. And like have her pick a house like in her neighborhood,
Okay.
right? Like somewhere she knows the knows people around there. Cause I think that's important. And I will sign off on the loan. I will like guide her through the process and, help her either rent it out or flip it.
Right.
But the idea being that, like, what do they say? Like, you take the horse to the water. Or however it goes. I forget how the saying goes, but like, you know what I mean?
Well, I can be in my 20s. Do you mind?
I will totally
I
help
can
you.
definitely be in my early 20s.
I could tell you find a deal. I'll help you out. I have no problem.
But I think, with your background and with the things that you've done, because it looks like you've been in every single arena
I know
that there
it does sound that
possibly
way.
could be.
Yeah, when I
Do you have like apartment buildings that you own?
I do. Yeah. So, and some of them have on-site property management, which
Okay.
is great because then I don't have to do that. But then you still have to manage those. It's not like you
hands
still
off.
manage the manager.
Right.
You don't like.
So because of that, because of all of your different investments,
Yeah.
I think sometimes one of the barriers to getting into an investment property is I don't want to have to deal with the tenants and their like little property maintenance
Yeah.
items and different things. So do you have a property management company that you
I
use?
do my own. So besides my like on-site, so I use 𝘸𝘸𝘸𝘸, which
Okay.
is like an app.
Okay.
And my assistant puts everything in it, and then they have the app on their phone. So what I was running into is I have some tenants that want to pay cash, and like I'm not picking up rent. I've passed
Right.
that point in my career. I'm no longer picking up rent. Don't ask me to pick up rent. I'm not doing
You're
it.
not doing it.
No. You can
Not
bring the rent
shaking
to
anyone
me.
down. Yeah.
I'm not picking up your rent. So she, they on the app, they can go into like CVS or whatever, or 7-Eleven. They give the cash to them and then they like upload it somehow. I have no idea. I'm not like tech savvy. So like, but somehow it ends up in my bank account from the app.
From the app.
Yeah. So
Really?
they give cash to
Okay.
CVS or somehow.
And then it just appears in your account.
Yeah.
So property maintenance wise, that's a lot to manage.
But again, remember, like I renovate them.
So it's not as much
Yeah.
as it would be something that's not in good repair.
Yeah. Exactly. And then I have like a lot of like my HVAC guys and stuff, like the tenants just call them sometimes. I'll just
Directly.
yeah.
Okay. So with your tenancies, do you prefer long-term tenants or do you typically do like a 12-month lease with your tenants? What do you typically do?
I usually, if I can do 2 years, I'll do 2 years.
Okay.
Recently rents have like skyrocketed. I try not to be a rent gouger
Okay.
because for a couple of reasons. Mainly, one, I don't feel like it's right. And two is that affordability wise, I don't want them to not be able to afford their rent
Right.
at some point.
Because that doesn't do you any
No. So
good
yeah.
as a landlord.
And then
But
when I
if
go
it-
to re-rent it, then what am I going to do? Rent it lower?
Exactly.
So yeah.
So
I don't
fair
do that.
market value
Yeah.
is typically what you're
I
looking
do.
to get.
Yeah.
Okay. So have you ever bought a property that you regretted?
I don't think so.
No?
No.
Like not one that was like, oh my God, this is like horrible. It's a dud. It's underperforming.
Definitely bought some horrible stuff, but nothing underperforming. I've bought like some heavy loads, but like I bought one house in like dead winter. I think it was like 20 degrees and I didn't open any of the windows in the house and every window in the house was bad.
Really?
So every single window had to be replaced. It was 22 windows that I did not budget for.
And that's what you got the quote for $150,000.
That was a different house. Yeah, but yeah. I'm trying to think of like duds that I bought. I don't.
Nothing stands out?
Oh, you know what? No, that's not true. I bought a 7-unit in Riverside. And I was like, I'll turn over the tenants in this. Because so one of the things I do is I look for people who haven't raised the rent in
Right.
quite some time.
Right.
Like those landlords that brag about, oh, I've had a tenant in there for 20 years. Like,
And they're paying the same rental amount?
yes. Like, no.
No,
that's
not a good idea.
No, that's
not a good idea.
No. But a lot of them don't have mortgages. So to them, it's just cash flow. Like,
Right.
So I buy a lot of those, like
Okay.
the people that have owned it for a while and just mismanaged.
Right.
But with that becomes a really like what they call like a heavy lift, meaning now you have these tenants who are living somewhere for half of market rent.
Right.
And they have to find a new place to live and you have to renovate their house. So I'll kind of move people around.
Okay.
But I bought one in Riverside and the guy had like something with his foot and he had moved people in from Craigslist to help him. Okay. So he finds these
Okay.
people on Craigslist, moves them into the unit. He goes to the hospital. They now take over his unit. And this
Oh,
is during
no.
COVID.
So can't
So
get
they're squatters at this
okay.
point. I can't get them out. And I didn't know they were there. I go there for an appraisal and she answers the door.
You're like, "You're not supposed
And
to
she's
be
like, "Who
here."
are you?" And I'm like, "Who are you?" Like, what is going on? The appraiser's looking at me like, what? But yeah, so that was a dud.
So this 7 unit,
Yes.
so you're shuffling people around. You've now got a squatter
Yeah.
living in there. What do you do at that point?
So I went so she answers the door. I was like, the appraiser has to get in. At this point, I'm like, why is she here?
Right. Because you thought it was empty because
There's
the
all
gentleman went
these
to the
people in the living room, and I'm like, and they're smoking cigarettes, and I was like, who are you? Like, I was like, oh, it was a mess. So I think I tried to offer her money to leave.
right, to help relocate.
I did
Mhm.
that. Gave her money. She left and then came back. Broke back
No,
in.
she didn't.
Yeah. So, and then when she broke back in, I had gutted the bathroom because I was redoing it.
Right.
And yeah, they were still using the bathroom without the bathroom in there.
Oh,
which was-
no.
Yeah. So
Oh,
it was bad.
no.
And this was right around Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So
So, like
courts
yeah.
were just starting to open, but not really.
Okay.
And she had moved her boyfriend in who was a felon.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And then she had a friend who was living in the basement.
Oh, my
Like, this
God.
is bad.
So there was a lot of people in the
Yeah.
unit.
I think when you have a building that has one person that's on drugs, it can spiral quickly because the people that then hang around are also on drugs.
Gotcha.
You have to take action pretty quickly.
As a landlord, it's your
Yeah.
responsibility to
Yeah.
do that because the rest of the building, part of the residential lease in the state of New Jersey is that each tenant can enjoy their unit with
Mhm.
some sort of safety and security.
Yeah.
That is actually part of the New Jersey lease agreement.
So they were like flushing the toilet. So the toilet was still there and it was leaking into the downstairs unit. Yeah. It was tough. So like by the time I got them out, I want to say they were in for like 2 months
Okay.
and probably caused $10,000 worth of
With the
damage. Yeah. They broke all the glass in the windows. They the guy that had lived there that was in the
Mhm.
hospital wanted to come back. And I was like,
Aw.
listen, all your stuff. Like they threw one of the TVs out the window. They
Oh,
threw his TV
no.
out the window. So it was on the second floor. And I'm like, all your stuff is gone.
I'm so
Like,
sorry.
yeah, like I guess she sold it. I don't know what she did, but
That's crazy.
it was a pretty
So
crazy
do you
time.
still own that building?
I do.
You do.
Yeah.
So it wasn't bad enough to where you were like, "No, let's just
Well,
get
so
rid
I
of it."
got them out and then I was feeling a little defeated,
Mhm.
but I'm like, at this point, I've been through all this. Like, I'm not going to
No,
sell it.
stop now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I refinanced it because I couldn't refinance because she was in there.
Gotcha.
So that held me up too. So I had a private loan on that. So we talk about like problems you run into.
Okay.
So now I'm stuck in my private
Loan with a
and-
higher interest rate.
Yes. And luckily the building still covers the the rent
payment.
covered the payment, but just barely. So now I'm paying for all the repairs out of pocket.
Okay.
And it was a lot of damage. Like I want to say that unit, so because they had used the toilet, it caused structural damage
Sure.
to the ceiling and the floor
Right.
of because it was on the second floor. And then all the windows. So I had to replace all that. So I think for me to redo that unit, I just finished recently. It was like 25 grand,
Wow.
which is a lot for
That's
one
just-
unit.
it's a
That's
lot
a
for
one
one
bedroom
unit.
unit.
Yeah.
So
That's just a one bedroom.
yeah. So that
Yeah.
tells you how much damage they
Yeah,
caused.
absolutely.
Like they were like cooking in some sort of something on the floor, and so there was like burns into the floor. So I had to replace all the flooring and yeah. I mean it was bad.
Yeah. But you said that most of what your experiences have been like with tenants and everything has been very positive because I
Yes.
think that's also somewhat like from my perspective, I'm like, oh my God, I would get the one tenant who would do all of that. But
Yeah.
it sounds like that doesn't tend to be like the norm.
I think until you're an experienced landlord, I would say probably buy vacant.
Okay.
I wouldn't inherit anybody else's problem
Okay.
until you have experience of how to deal with
Of
it.
how to deal with all of that.
Have a really good eviction attorney.
Okay.
That particular property, I mean, she had cut the plumbing. She was going in the basement and turning off everybody's electric. Like it was, she caused a lot of problems. Like keep in mind, like she's there illegally. I didn't
Right.
move her in,
Right.
but she has rights in the state of New Jersey.
Jersey. So that's interesting, and we were talking about this a little bit off camera. So if you are a landlord and you have a tenant in a property and that tenant says, "Hey, listen, I need to move someone in to help take care of me," that person who gets moved in now has rights, now has
Yeah.
tenants' rights.
So what you should do is qualify them,
Okay.
add them to the lease.
Okay.
So get their social, run their credit.
Credit.
They should have to qualify on their own.
Okay.
Because if your other tenant, I guess, has to go into the hospital or anything like that, you need to make sure that they will carry the rent. But the story that I was telling you, she told me that she needed him there to take care of the cats. And I was like, well, he can go there and take care of the cats and leave.
Right.
I'm not having him move there. He did have, she said, a history of abusing women. And I'm like, why would you want this person in your house?
Right.
Yeah. So the whole thing
yeah.
was.
So there's like little nuances that people are going to want to be aware of. And so, like you said, probably the best thing for a first-time investor coming out is a vacant property. You're not dealing with prior tenants because that can be a big mess. Because especially in the state of New Jersey, tenants have a lot of rights.
They do.
They have a lot of rights.
And overall, like I was telling you off camera, overall my tenants are amazing. They're great. They have my number.
Right.
Like they know me. Like we have a great relationship. It's just, here and there you get things. But it's most of the ones that when I inherit properties
Right.
that have tenants already that have been there for a while and probably were a headache for that landlord.
So, Amanda, do you have your real estate license?
I don't.
You don't?
Mm-mm.
Would you ever consider getting it?
So I took the class.
Okay.
And then never took the test. So
why not?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just I remember I was like working and taking the test and doing the class and doing other things. I think I would. I don't really know. I guess I would use it to sell my own stuff if I wanted to sell, but like I don't really know what I would use it for.
Yeah.
So I have like a couple things I do on the side, and one is so I raise equity for ground up construction deals,
Okay.
or if people are buying larger deals, I help them raise equity. And sometimes those deals fall apart, so then I will find a buyer for them.
For those deals.
Yeah.
Okay. So definitely another question that I think is on everyone's mind, I know it's on my mind, is how do you find these properties? I mean, you said you searched the MLS, which is where, realtors put up listings, but you must find them other places too.
So I look for things that are mismarketed a lot. So for instance, hopefully by the time this is out, I will have this under contract. I'm buying a 10 unit and it's in the MLS as a 4 unit. Like I guess because MLS only lets you go up so high, right? Like in the regular
in the description.
Yes. So then in the description it says 10 units.
But you'd really have to be looking for that.
Yeah. So like I do read every like MLS. I could tell by looking at the picture. But I'm guessing that people don't even go that far because it's just
they're looking for certain search parameters.
Yes. And then I always have like a price per unit in my head of what I think it should be.
Right.
Without even looking at the income and expenses.
Okay.
Which is like a whole nother conversation about income and expenses. Yeah.
And then you said you were looking for properties where maybe the owner doesn't have a mortgage, but maybe has had some long-term tenants. And then that's maybe something you would target.
Yeah. So, and I think you also too need to put it out there that you're looking. A lot of deals do come to me now, maybe not before,
right?
But now they do. Like, if I know someone who owns a building, they'll say, hey, do you know anybody that'll buy this? Or would you buy this? And if I won't buy it, I know somebody that will. I think every person I know now is in real estate. I don't have many non-real estate friends left.
Because this is your life. This is
Yeah,
what
it's
you
all I
do
do
the
all
time.
day. Yeah.
So would you recommend people start to network with other investors, other people who are doing it
Yeah.
on a larger level
Yeah.
to learn, number one, learn from them, and number two, just start being in those conversations so they can be open to other opportunities?
Yeah, and I
Would
work
that
with a
make
lot of
sense?
wholesalers too.
Okay.
So I work in a lot of off-market.
Good deals.
Yeah. But a lot of that stuff with that comes you're buying as is. I don't recommend that for somebody's first deal
Right.
necessarily. Maybe, but maybe not. Like it's one of those things you have to be kind of cautious with,
Right.
you know? Like because a lot of those deals you don't get to see before you buy them, or maybe you get to see it once. It's not like the kind of thing where you get to have an inspection. Like it wouldn't be my first go-to
For somebody
for
just
a first
starting out.
deal.
Gotcha.
No. But you never know.
I think one of the biggest takeaways from our conversation is just mindset. Like
Yeah.
you have to be in it, like take some risk, get outside your
Yeah.
comfort zone because it's not for everyone. But for those of us who are maybe a little bit hesitant, I've really appreciated you coming on because now I want to go out and buy like
Yeah.
30 properties.
Yeah.
Like I want to totally get into it because it's a way to build long-term wealth.
Yeah.
And that's what you've been able to do, which I think is just amazing and in a pretty short period of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Especially in the last year.
Yeah.
I've grown substantially in the last year. But really, I do it for my kids. I don't think I reap any benefits currently. So I don't think they would come until,
till down the line
Yeah.
because you buy real estate and wait. You don't wait to buy real estate. That's what we always say.
Yeah.
You buy real estate and wait.
Yeah. And, like I'll refine it, but I just keep buying more stuff. So it's not like I really
Are
not like
cashing
I'm
out
going
right
on-
now,
Yeah.
living the good life
Yeah,
right
no,
now.
not at all.
That's going to come later.
Yeah,
That's gonna
I hope
come
so
later.
at some point.
Well, I've really enjoyed having you on. I think it's been super helpful of just, start with one. Get into the
Yeah.
right rooms with the right people. Is there any networking events that you would recommend for someone starting out or any
So I know there
podcasts?
is a New Jersey investor group.
Yes.
I am not in it. I
Okay.
should be, but I'm not. I don't know why, but it's hard for me to commit to evening events. Like it's tough. I
Sure.
balance my kids, and it's the only time I see them is like at night.
Right.
So,
But that would be one place
but
where
that
they
would be
could
one
start
place,
out.
and that's a good place probably to find a partner. I think doing your first deal with somebody who's done it before, who will walk you through the process. Maybe you split it 50-50.
Right.
Maybe they sign the note and you do the equity. I do that a lot. So
Okay.
I'm what they call the sweat.
Uh-huh.
So there's like two people.
Right.
I'm the person that finds the deals, and then I usually sign the note, and somebody else will come in with the equity. And then we'll split it 50-50.
Gotcha.
There's different ways to set up different deals. That's how I did that one. I've done like tenant in common where somebody comes in as a 1031 exchange and they're the equity. I've done, a lot of the stuff I own by myself. I have a lot of partners, probably 10 partners at this point. My tax returns for this year will be a mess.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
So yeah, but I think have maybe you could buy probably 10-20 grand to buy your first investment property should be enough. That should be enough to float you through your draw period.
Okay.
And it should be enough for your down payment. And, partner up with somebody who's done it before. If you don't want to do that, then ask a ton of questions. And that's what I do. I just ask. Anybody who will answer my questions, I ask.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you're a doer. You just don't sit on the sidelines and wait for things to come to you.
I find it fascinating. Like, how did you do that? How
Yeah.
did you set it up? I deal a lot with big transactions of guys that do land leases, and they do all sorts of stuff that I didn't even know existed. And I love the way that deals are set up. Transaction structuring is
and figuring all of the little those things out.
Uh,
So there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
Is basically the end.
Yeah.
All be all. There's a lot of different ways.
Yeah. Start small in a neighborhood that you feel comfortable with. So I don't buy anywhere I won't walk around. So that's my rule. Some people say where you would live,
If
either
it were
or.
for you.
Feel comfortable, know your rents, know your values. I learned the Jersey City market in 4 months.
Okay.
So you go there, look at them, see what they sell for, follow them. There's going to be a lot of opportunities coming soon. So yeah, just be ready and don't be scared.
Don't be scared.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's your tip for today. Don't be scared when it comes to real estate investing. I'm totally taking that to heart. So thank you, Amanda,
Yeah,
and looking
thanks.
forward to hopefully bringing you back, and let's get into a few other things.
Yeah.
Sound
Thank
good?
you.
All
Yeah,
right.
so
Thank you.
much.
Do you want to learn more about investing in real estate as a woman? Hit learn more to find out 4 ways you can get started in real estate investing today. Don't be scared.